You know how every neighborhood has that one person who thinks the rules don't apply to them, but somehow feels entitled to control everyone else? In my community, that person was Karen, the HOA president, self appointed queen of the cul de sac, and walking disaster in pearls. For years, I put up with her nonsense. Notes taped to my door because my grass was half an inch too tall, emails at midnight complaining that my porch light was too bright and disturbing the neighborhood aesthetic, even fines for leaving my trash can at the curb 12 minutes after pickup. 12 minutes! It was always ridiculous, but I let it slide. Life's too short to fight every petty battle. Or at least that's what I told myself. But what happened next, that crossed a line I didn't even know existed. This wasn't about lawn height or fences or paint colors. This was about my garage, my property, my private space. And when Karen decided to use it without my permission, I decided it was time she learned what it meant to trespass into the wrong person's world. The discovery. An uninvited guest. It was a Thursday afternoon, one of those days where everything feels just slightly off. Work had been exhausting, traffic was worse, and all I wanted was to pull into my driveway, hit the button, and let my garage door slide open to greet me with that little piece of comfort we all feel when we're finally home. But when the door lifted, I froze. Sitting there, in the middle of my garage, was a car. Not just any car, a shiny, pearl-white Lexus SUV, polished, spotless, with one of those tacky pine tree air fresheners dangling from the mirror. At first I thought maybe I had the wrong house. It happens, right? Long day, zoning out. But then I saw my shelves, my tools, my storage bins, all shoved against the wall like garbage. My bike was tipped over. A box of Christmas decorations had been crushed under one of the tires. And that's when I saw it, a vanity plate that read Karen. My jaw clenched so hard I swear I could feel my molars grinding into dust. I stepped out of my car and stood there, staring. I wanted to believe there was some explanation, some emergency. Maybe she broke down and needed shelter. But as I walked around the Lexus, I noticed something else. A pink Post-it note stuck to one of my toolboxes. In neat, flowery handwriting, it said, "Thanks for letting me use this while my garage gets repainted. Karen, heart." My hands shook as I crumpled the note. I wasn't angry yet. I was beyond angry. I was in that icy, terrifying place where rage turns into silence. The confrontation. Karen's logic. The next morning, I knocked on her door. She opened it wearing a pastel sweater, pearls, and an expression that could curdle milk. "Oh, hi," she said cheerfully, like nothing was wrong. "You saw my note?" I took a deep breath. "Karen, why is your car in my garage?" She gave me the fakest laugh I've ever heard. "Oh, don't be so dramatic. It's just temporary. My garage is being repainted, and I couldn't possibly leave my Lexus on the street. HOA rules say no street parking for more than 24 hours, and I couldn't fit it in the driveway with my husband's truck. So, problem solved." "Problem solved?" I repeated, trying to keep my voice steady. "Karen, you broke into my garage." She waved her hand dismissively. "Don't exaggerate. The side door was unlocked." My voice dropped. "That's still trespassing." But she wasn't listening. She tilted her chin, smugness dripping off every word. "Well, you weren't using it anyway. Besides, as HOA president, I have the authority to designate temporary accommodations for residents when community needs arise. It's in the bylaws." I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. "Karen, the bylaws don't say you get to hijack private property. That's not how this works." She smirked. "Well, maybe you should read them more carefully." That was it. That was the moment I decided I wasn't just going to move her car, I was going to teach her a lesson she'd never forget. The plan. Lockdown. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with a beer in hand, staring out at my garage. The Lexus sat there like an uninvited guest, mocking me. And then it hit me. What better revenge than to let Karen's precious Lexus become her prison? I waited until midnight. The neighborhood was silent, the kind of silence where you can hear every cricket, every rustle of leaves. I walked out, locked the main garage door, threw a heavy-duty padlock on the side entrance, and killed the breaker that powered the garage. No power meant no automatic opener, no charging her Lexus. Then I packed a bag, tossed it into my car, and drove away. No explanation, no warning, just gone. Day 1, the realization. I didn't answer calls that day, but my phone buzzed nonstop. Texts from Karen, voicemails from unknown numbers, even a message from the HOA board demanding I release community property. Community property? They actually said that. By evening, Karen's messages shifted from fake sweet to furious. You can't do this. You're breaking the law. I'm calling the police. Day 2, the meltdown. On the second day, my neighbor Jim texted me a video. Karen was pacing up and down the street, phone in hand, screaming at anyone who would listen. She's losing it, Jim wrote. She said you kidnapped her car. In the video, Karen was yelling into her phone, "It's Grand Theft Auto! He stole my car! He's holding it hostage!" I laughed so hard I nearly spit out my coffee. Day 3, the locksmith. On the third day, she brought in a locksmith, but the guy refused to touch it without proof of ownership. I could almost picture the scene, Karen shrieking about bylaws and authority, while the locksmith stood there shaking his head. The best part? That night, Jim told me she tried to slide a note under my front door. It read, "This is harassment. If you don't release my car immediately, I will have you removed from the HOA." Removed from the HOA, as if that was even a thing. Day 4, the breaking point. By the fourth day, Karen was unraveling. Neighbors said she stood outside my house for hours, yelling at my Ring doorbell camera, threatening lawsuits, screaming about how the HOA owns all private garages and how she had the right to use mine. Nobody believed her anymore. Even her loyal board members started backing away, embarrassed. Day 5, the return. When I finally returned on the 5th day, the street was buzzing. Neighbors had gathered, waiting to see what would happen. Karen was there, red-faced, sweat dripping down her forehead, pointing at the garage like it was a crime scene. "There he is!" she screamed. "Open it! You're going to jail!" I walked casually, sipping coffee, sunglasses on. I didn't say a word as I unlocked the padlock, flipped the breaker, and slowly rolled up the garage door. Gasps filled the street. There sat her Lexus, dusty, drained of battery, and covered in sticky notes I had plastered across the windshield. Private property, not for community use. Her mouth fell open. She looked like she might explode. She called the police, of course, but when they arrived and I calmly explained what happened, they laughed. "Ma'am, you parked your car in his garage without permission. That's trespassing. He didn't steal your car. You abandoned it on private property." The look on her face was priceless. The HOA tried to threaten me with fines, but I hired a lawyer. Within weeks, not only were the fines dismissed, but Karen was forced to pay damages for trespassing. Even worse, for her at least, the board voted her out of office. Now, every time I step into my garage, I smile, because I know Karen will never forget the week her shiny Lexus became my hostage.
Another day, another HOA problem.